Alright, as you guys can see by the title, we are going to be talking about just some of the stuff that happened between Isaiah and I. It's not going to be the type of video you think. And I know a lot of people are going to just see he can't keep things private. I actually think that making this video will be very beneficial. I genuinely think there is no backfiring in this video. I don't think there's literally going to be anything bad said. And to start that off, to show y'all, like, Isaiah and I are great. We've had some of the most honest conversations with each other, hyping each other up, supporting each other the last, I don't even know how long it's been, last couple months. It's been really healthy. It's been awesome. And I'm saying that because we worked through a lot of stuff. There have always been people that have tried to, you know, get us to be enemies, whether it be in the lo-fi scene, the fans, even people in the label saying stuff to me about things and whatever. It's not, it was gross. It was gross. So we're going to be clearing up a lot of stuff, talking about pretty much everything. I tried to record this video earlier and I ran out of space, so I lost the footage. Like the file couldn't save, which I think I'm supposed to put it on like fragmented MP4 for it to not do that, but I'm stupid and I didn't. So take two. Let's just get into it. Isaiah and I, we met on SoundCloud in 2018, late 2018. I was pretty depressed in college. I had found out that I had gotten cheated on, and it was really bad. And I was making sad music, and he ended up finding my stuff, and he was like, yo, like, if I can find the message, I will, but essentially it was just like, yo, I really like your stuff. But yeah, that was the first message between us, and I had always told myself, like, I wouldn't really collab with people, probably because I was scared of collabing. I didn't know what it looked like. It's like one of those things where it's like, you have an idea of something, and you've been doing it a certain way for so long, and then it's like, oh, but this is also another way to do it. And collabs, like, that was a thing that I had never done. I don't know if he suggested collabing or whatever in the message, but he eventually did. We became pretty close. We told each other about our lives. We played Rocket League a ton, and it was cool. It was awesome. First song that we made that dropped on all platforms, I'm pretty sure, was I Miss the Old You. And fun fact about that song, the verses actually were swapped. Isaiah wanted to swap them, I'm pretty sure, which is really good calm. I think it made the song flow a lot better, and that was cool. It was cool seeing someone that I collabed with, like, take such a strong interest and you know, show emotion in the art further than, you know, what could be gained after the art was out. It was really cool, and that was a great first collab, you know, that, like, a first official, like, you know, intentional collab that happened naturally. After that, we had a bunch of other stuff drop, like Kool-Aid Summers and Would Look Perfect. And then we had When We Were 16. For the majority of our collabs, Isaiah actually would send me stuff. And for me, it wasn't like a personal thing between literally anybody. When I was making a song, like, I'd have like all the verses and ideas done, and it was very hard for me to like step back and like almost like unwrite the verse and kind of let someone else do it. I just essentially always had like the song kind of done in my head with me on it, like the rapping and everything like that. And so, yeah, it was rare if I had a song where I'm like, I'm going to think of whatever. And again, I can't really explain it well. Hopefully it doesn't make me sound like a bad person for not trying to involve more people, but to make things a little better because of how my brain worked, I would hit up people seeing if they wanted to work, and if they wanted to start the song for us to collab, and then I'd, you know, put the verse on it. And that in my brain was how I would make up for like me just always having the song done in my head before I asked someone to collab, right? So make a lot of songs, and eventually we get to 2020, because that was 2019. We get to 2020, and Deathbed is now like going stupid viral. And this has a positive impact on like everybody in the lo-fi scene, because now the genre is starting to take off and whatever. And it was really cool because the last song that we dropped before Deathbed like exploded was Laying on My Porch while we watched the world end. And that kind of, you know, aligned with what was going on in the world. And we didn't do that on purpose. There was not literally, it was just like a song idea that Isaiah had, and he thought I would do a cool verse on it. And the song ended up doing really well. But now we get to the first label release that Isaiah and I dropped, which was I'll Come Back to You. And this was kind of the song that changed everything for myself and Sarcastic, who was also on it. And I think we've both talked about it, how it was like, this is like kind of like a defining moment of like, we can really do this. We can provide something to a song that gets, you know, a big push and people actually like it. After that, there was a couple other songs, I think, or maybe one, maybe two, maybe there weren't. I honestly can't remember. 2020 is a blur, as it is for, I'm sure, a lot of other people. But at the end of 2020, there was Eyes Blue. And Eyes Blue was such a weird song because Sarcastic had sent me the sample. He's like, do you want to try anything with this? And I was like, yeah. So that night I wrote 2 verses. He produced it out, and it was amazing. And the label was like, yo, you know, we showed this to Powfu, and he didn't really want to hop on it, but maybe now that you've had verses and you've kind of like structured it, maybe he'd want to hop on it. And he did. It was a good comm by them, and we had the song pretty much done. But the label didn't think it was enough. I had 2 verses on it, like a first verse, Isaiah had the second, then I had like a kind of like an outro verse, which I thought was freaking awesome. But they wanted a bigger artist on the song to make it like explode and then give everybody more publicity and whatever. So one of the people they had in mind was Tate McRae, and she had a verse or like a bridge type of thing on the song, and it was kind of dope. It was actually pretty dope. If I have it anywhere on my computer, maybe I'll put it out. I don't know. I don't know if I could get in legal trouble for that. I'll just say it's AI. I don't know. But she ended up not wanting to do it because You Broke Me First, which was like her smash, was like coming out around that time, and she wasn't really vibing with it. So then they got Alec Benjamin on, and I would be honest, I don't know that guy. Everyone was working with Alec Benjamin. I didn't. We just have a song together. That's the reality of it. There's nothing, you know, crazy behind that. But yeah, so song drops. It's Isaiah's like second biggest song, and it's my biggest song. And it was really cool collaborating on a song like that. And like there was just high hopes, man. Everything was going well. But it was either around this time or a little bit after that, I kind of noticed that, you know, when you have the biggest song or like the third biggest song in the world behind Drake and The Weeknd, there's pressure behind you to make more songs like that. And I recognize this, but Isaiah was one of the strongest people I'd ever met in my life, with his beliefs, with his opinions, everything. And I was worried as a friend, but the greater part of me was like, nah, he's got this. Like, he'll be good. And so, you know, life continues. And then it doesn't, because I had a lot of stuff that I feel like stopped my growth as a person, and life was kind of in a standstill. My grandfather passed away maybe like a month or 2 after Eyes Blue dropped. My best friend died, my friend Austin. And then I went through a very tumultuous breakup. I don't even know if that's the right word for it, but a very bad breakup. I used a lot of my friends as crutches, including Isaiah, during the breakup, but it wasn't great. I mean, every problem I had, I'd call my friends and figure out if I was right or wrong. Like, it was so weird. Like, I felt not developed. I know now, like, yeah, it's probably autism. Like, I'm probably like not the, you know, most normal person. But back then it was really tough for me, going through all of these things. And then, you know, the icing on the cake was the robbery. That, like, I kicked a hole in a door. I was manic, dude. I literally, to everyone else, I was probably such a different person. And I apologize for that. And hopefully people, you know, understand now. Like, as much as I want to say, like, own up to everything and be like, it was 100% my fault, like, I don't know many people who are going through a bunch of different traumatic things back to back to back to back and coming out of it just like, hi, I'm so happy, I'm good. And I honestly think me trying to act happy made me, you know, made everything worse. And yeah, so Isaiah's going through the pressures with the label and trying to make a song, and he's got people talking shit in the worst ways. Like, bro saw amazing, like, success and people were just trying to hurt him for being successful, and it was weird. And I tried to stand up for him, as much as I could. And we were friends. We're not going to agree with everything that we are saying or doing, but like, we're friends at the end of the day. And that was definitely my mentality up until I had gotten robbed. I think that kind of changed everything. It kind of messed up my trust with people, and it was almost impossible, I will say, for me to like have not changed. Like, I literally couldn't stay the same after everything happened. Like, you get a gun to your head one time and you've got defense mechanisms, so it was tough. A lot of things that I wouldn't have taken personally before that had happened, I started to take personally. I was a lot more sensitive to people. I was not as kind to people, and I'll bring up something about kindness in a second that I did that people around me didn't really understand. I get robbed in Alabama. I'm in a relationship at the time. Relationship's terrible. To my eyes, I just want to say sorry. It was really bad. I was insane. Like, legitimately crazy. I have apologized to her many times throughout the years. But yeah, she didn't know how to, handle a person that had dealt with what I had dealt with, and I didn't understand how to not put the burden of what I dealt with onto other people as if they could, like, save me from it, because that's really all I wanted, was just to be saved. But, I got robbed. Nothing stopped. The label was like, sorry that happened, but we need you to make TikToks for the song. You guys know I had the video with like 13 million views with I'm So Good at Lying. It reacted really well. Thomas made some videos with it, and it was like cool. The song comes out, it does like 100K first day. It does really well. Everyone's hyped. And then the song kind of dies. And I was a little upset because I felt like personally that Isaiah hadn't, and I don't mean this in like a bad way, but I was like, dang, man, I really wish, he would have promoted it. And so I ended up asking him about it. And what he said, it wasn't the answer that I thought was going to be the answer, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't expect him to say what he said. And it wasn't terrible. It was just kind of like a cold way to look at it, which is like, I promoted it for months and it didn't end up going viral. So like, what would be the point of further promotion was kind of what he said. And like, I had never had the hit. I had never had this, multi-platinum radio smash. I was still working for that, and I wanted him to be a part of it. Like, I fought for I'm So Good at Lying to come out. Like, I really liked that song. The label liked it. Everybody involved liked it. And so I wanted to make it like a special thing. And what I didn't realize is how much stuff had affected my friend, like the cold response to the question I asked, like, I kind of took it as like a personal thing. And again, I'd be lying if the robbery and me getting defensive and me having trust issues wasn't involved in how I responded to that thing that he said. After that, my partner at the time and we break up, and I end up moving to LA. And it was very weird. It was a very weird adjustment period. I got robbed in a city I didn't know, and now I was in Los Angeles. And I was staying in downtown for a little bit, which is crime-ridden. I literally watched a tiny guy get pushed off of one of those electric scooters, and he got robbed, and like his head, it was crazy. And seeing that after I had gotten robbed at gunpoint, I was scared. I was just terrified. And again, if you don't go through these things, like, they happen, but you don't really truly comprehend it. And I think, for a lot of my friends, like, the way I acted came off as like I'm being like an asshole, or I've changed and I've let things get to me, like, whatever. But it was, at least for me, the way I look at it was like a defense mechanism of like, I have to be colder, I have to be less accepting or forgiving or whatever, like, or I'm gonna die. I'm literally gonna die. There is no scarier feeling than, I'm sure there are, but for me in my life was seeing the gun pointed to my head saying, like, if you don't follow these steps, I'm going to kill you. And that was scary. And I'll talk more about the robbery another day. I actually feel like it's a pretty interesting thing to talk about now that I've, learned a lot from it and calmed down a lot. But yeah, so LA, I'm not having a good time. I did 2 sessions the whole time I was there. Sessions are like you go and you try to make music with a producer or whatever, or you write with people, and it wasn't great. It wasn't fun. I couldn't, and I feel like I've talked about this in another video recently, but I couldn't connect with people. I was so on guard. It was weird. And even when, you know, people like Isaiah came into LA for a little bit to come hang out, I was just weird. I think life didn't feel real. I didn't know what to do. It was weird. And there were a couple instances where I was just cold and like I didn't really understand the negative energy I was putting out. I was in the car that I got robbed in with everyone in there. So, you know, I have like a responsibility to keep everybody safe, whatever, you know, top down, we're having a good time. But like when this thing gets parked, anyone could come after it. You know what I mean? And so there was a lady who had messed up her parking job, and we were kind of like in the middle of the road, but we were stopped, and I'm having a panic attack, and I'm honking at her. I'm like, please hurry up. And I think my friends at the time thought that I was trying to be an asshole. I have money. Maybe she had like not a nice of car as I did or whatever. And I was just being an asshole, like not caring about her, respecting her. But instead, it wasn't that. It was like, I am so scared of being in this car in a standstill position. I don't want people to know that I drive this car, you know? And of course, I'm going to put on a facade in front of my friends, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I got this convertible, whatever. But then I'm parked and I'm revealed, you know, we're not driving. There's no... You know what I'm saying? Like, anyone could come up and do whatever they want and take the car. And if there's no police around, like, who knows what that's going to look like. And that's really what I was scared of. And, you know, it came off as bad. And there was just other stuff like that happened that was just miscommunication, misunderstanding. One person saying one thing, the other person saying the other, and no one's talking. You know, it's just kind of like assumptions and like, oh, well, they said it's this, so it's got to be that. And that was tough. On the friendship. I'm not sure if this happened before or after the tour, but I have to talk about the tour. I think it happened after the tour, but I this is something that I have to absolutely talk about because to this day, people still are confused about it. There was no issues between Isaiah and I for the reason why I didn't go on the tour. It was a couple things. It was that the people who were organizing the tour, like behind him, were not giving me all of the details that I needed to be comfortable with spending money or doing whatever that I was supposed to do on the tour. When it came to the money, they had ended up saying they'd pay for me because I was like, this is a lot for me to pay. But I said no because it wasn't just the money. I had found 2 lumps in my arm, which is still a weird thing to talk about. I didn't know if it was something terrible. I was having very bad digestive issues at this time. I found lumps in my body. And I actually had found the second one while I was rehearsing for the tour. Not while I was, but during the period of rehearsals. In my room, I had found the other lump, like scratching my arm or something like that. And it was scary. And so because of everything, because of the stress that I was experiencing, like I had to pull out of the tour. And I knew Isaiah was upset, but I knew also that he wasn't going to treat me any differently because of it. The issue was that people around him treated me differently. How could you let him down? How he's done so much for you. And like in our conversation recently, like we both made it very clear that we've helped each other a lot. And it again, when you are letting outsiders almost into your friendship and they start saying that, like, it makes it toxic. It's tough. It is not fun. But so many people are talking that you don't even know what you're hearing at a certain point. And that was tough. So I don't go on the tour. I can't remember who filled in for me, but I was very grateful that everything went well. I told my mom to go to the show in Jacksonville, and she did, and they talked, and like everything was good. What was scary though is that even though they were treating my mom well and like people around Izzy, like people were not happy with me. And I didn't realize this. This is one of those things where like my self-awareness was not registering that there could be people that were upset with me because I didn't pull out of the tour in a malicious way. Like, it literally, like, I remember I called Isaiah's dad, and I cried for like 2 hours, and he cried with me, and I really felt like there was like an understanding of like, you know, this just, it's not gonna work the way we thought it was all gonna work. And yeah, people, I wouldn't say they hated me, but they definitely were not happy with the fact that I didn't go on the tour. Fans weren't happy, people weren't happy, and of course, like, I let people down. But I will say, this was definitely a turning point in my life, because I owned up to something that I truly wasn't feeling, and I communicated. And I think seeing the, I don't want to say backlash, because it really wasn't like a public outrage, but there was a lot of negativity pointed towards me, and it was weird, because I'm like, I communicated, I did everything I could to make the tour work in my head. It didn't work, and then, you know, I was respectful, and I, you know, did what I felt like I had to do to preserve myself after everything that had happened. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, like, a year before this, you know, my friend died. A little bit over a year before that, my grandfather died. I got robbed at gunpoint. Now I'm gonna go tour the country. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot, and I really tried to persevere, and I'm sorry I couldn't. Following that, I feel like there was a very small grace period, or at least I thought it was a grace period, before like another like weird thing happened to me that I had never experienced. But some people know this. I got sexually assaulted in LA by a girl. It wasn't great. It was really uncomfortable. And I ended up moving back to Florida after it happened, and I was not talking to my friends. I was like, it was bad. I don't think I've ever, like, I got robbed at gunpoint. I thought that was tough. But, like, having a girl, like, take advantage of me for her own, like, it was weird. It was really weird, and I felt very weak. I felt very disgusted. I blame myself for things happen. It just wasn't good, and, you know, I was also, like, emotionally charged from that. So now I'm, you know, I'm just, like, I know I'm reactive, and I know I'm just not going through, I'm not having a good time, so I just kind of stepped away from people. And one of the people that I stepped away from was Isaiah. There's a conversation between us that wasn't positive. It wasn't good. It was very, you know, emotional on both ends. We both said stuff that the other person definitely didn't want to hear at the time, and we kind of put a pause on the friendship. And throughout this time, like, a lot of us, you know, in the scene, like, weren't talking as much. There were falling outs, and there were issues, and, like, you know, things weren't the greatest. Things were not the greatest. We were coming down from the high of the lo-fi scene, and stuff just wasn't great. Then, you know, I started dating a girl. She does music. Weird relationship. Honestly, I won't even get into it, but essentially, pregnancy happened, and then termination of the pregnancy, and I literally became, I think, the coldest I'd ever been in my life. That was, especially after, like, I'm telling you, I loved this girl with all my might. I tried to make it work every chance I could, and when it didn't, I was defeated. I didn't have time for anything, it felt like, in my head, because all I could think about was how terrible this type of stuff was. And dude, when you love someone and you know that, and I guess it's hard, because when, like, the idea of a kid gets involved, that's when it really starts to either come together or fall apart, and it really fell apart. So that was beginning of 2024. I got really sick, was going through a lot, and then people randomly were saying inflammatory stuff regarding Powfu in front of me, and, like, some of it was like, oh, I heard he said this and whatever, and like, there were you know, there was proof of it. It wasn't like I was, you know, baselessly like, oh, he said this, whatever. So, like, I knew some of the stuff was being said, and I didn't appreciate it, and I said it right back. And then when I laughed about that after everything, but, like, I was like, yeah, I mean, if you don't like my stuff, I don't like your stuff. And that's pretty much how it was, until one of my friends had sent a Snapchat of a song he was making, and you know, it was essentially the lines like we were supposed to tour the world and whatever. And I was like, like he's making a song and like that's definitely about me. And I don't know how I feel about that. But I don't think our friendship was at the point or at a point where we could talk to each other about that and be open. And so him making this song, in my head, I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. You can just talk to me. But I also recognize, like, he probably doesn't want to. He had good reasons for not wanting to talk to me. Like, I wouldn't respond. He might not have totally understood all of that, but he's got his own life. You know what I mean? To try and make sense of, like, one of his closest friends who he stood up for a lot, just not responding, it was like, you know, that felt personal to him. And that's not his fault, because when that stuff happened to me, I also felt like it was a personal thing. We often forget, like, people do have their own lives, and it's sometimes you just get so overwhelmed by stuff that it's impossible to, you know, find time. Or if, like, people are avoiding things and they're really hurt by stuff, it's hard, you know, to, like, muster up the courage to invigorate these, or I guess revitalize might be the better word. But just, like, get back to your friendships, get back to the things that really matter. So I know there's this song about me that he's working on. Why did that just happen? Anyways, I'll keep talking. There's a song, part you left out, and from that point to when I started hearing stuff about me said from him, which again there was proof for. I think there was like 2 things that I had heard, and there was proof for one of the things, and the other thing he said it at like a show or something, right? And so in my head, I'm like, so he's publicly saying stuff, he's making this song, and he said he didn't like something that I made, like public. And I'm just like, dang, okay. I reciprocated that like a fucking idiot. And it was stupid. I mean, it wasn't good. And again, I don't regret anything. I want to learn from things. If I really want to be a better person, I will look at my mistakes in the fucking eye of the beast and understand, like, okay, I was wrong. I need to do better. And yeah, so the song ends up coming out, and I listen to it, you know, and he's promoting it, and I see people that I have had issues with, you know, I saw people like that supporting the song. Might have been delusional, but it felt like there was like an entire camp of people that didn't care about what I had gone through or anything. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, like, oh, I didn't realize that, like, me showing support for something that was, you know, against somebody in a way is going to make it look like I'm also against them. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what it was. And, like, that's how it looked. And I was scared. I was definitely scared. I think a lot of people, oh, he's manic, he's lost his mind, he's whatever. And it's like, okay, you know, we go through stuff, whatever. Just hit a trick shot. Go through all of the things I went through. Try not to have trust issues or mania or delusion. It's not the easiest thing. And that there's no excuse for any of the inflammatory stuff I said. But when you look at it from like, oh, like, this guy thought his career was going to end. This guy had so many people, the closest people to him, you know, change his life in negative ways. It makes sense, you know? Not that it makes everything right, but it makes sense. That's all I want to reason people with, because I know some people are going to watch this and be like, dude, like, it doesn't mean that it was right. I don't want what I did to be right. I just want people to understand why I had the thought process that I did. And just for some understanding, you know? I'm not a saint. I'm not perfect. People can see that. These things weren't coming from a place of hatred. That's as simple as I can say it. It was not coming out of it. I was scared. I was hurt by a lot of people. I felt like I had to constantly defend myself in certain situations. And yeah, so by the time the diss track drops, we talk. I had talked to him before it came out, so I didn't hear the second verse. And personally, the second verse was like a little more intense than the first. And so we had a conversation, and it was okay. It was a good starting point, I would say. Like, I feel like I got my apologies off, and then the next time we talked, he apologized, and things were better. But you know, I got a lot of hate. One of the worst comments I got was, you know, he's got a wife, he's got a kid, he's got one of the biggest songs ever, and you have nothing. I was like, dang, bro. Like, if things wouldn't have been taken from me, I feel like I could have a lot too. But instead, like, I sat in my trauma, and it just sucked because, one, that guy shouldn't have said that, obviously. That's a horrible thing to say. But two, like, I really wanted all of that stuff. I thought in my head that I, you know, not that I deserved it, but those were my goals too. You know what I mean? The big song, the wife, the child. I mean, I got, you know, someone was pregnant that I loved very dearly, and you know, we know what happened to that. So it just sucked that I had stuff happen, and people just like were, you know what I'm saying? They were attacking. It was definitely attacks. I mean, it was bad. It was people that had no idea anything I'd been through, just randomly, you know, doing stuff. And then you could say the same thing about people that supported me when I went live after, with the screenshots saying like, hey, like, this is my defense, this is whatever. And then people being like, oh, I can't believe he talked about this stuff. And in reality, the whole situation was two friends hurt by a little or a lot of stuff that we did. There were people trying to tear us apart. There were people that didn't care about our friendship and cared more about the business. There was a lot of stuff that was in between our friendship, and it just sucked, man. Like, it legitimately sucked. It no longer felt like we were young adults making dope music. It felt like, I don't know, dude, it felt like there was evil trying to push us in opposite directions. Like, it just wasn't great. No, I had made comments. I was, again, manic. People were like, he lost his mind. I knew what I was saying. I wasn't just saying stuff to say it or get a reaction. I was trying, like, in my head, it felt like, okay, we're clearly never going to be friends, so I want to, like, I'll take this opportunity to finally, like, you know, push each other away for both of our sakes. And I didn't do that in the greatest way at all. Like, I was like, here's what he believes, here's tweets that he said, and that was that. And I definitely came off as, it wasn't good. It came off very negatively, and I feel like it didn't solve anything because, of course, like, yeah, my side is getting heard. You know, people are understanding that Rxseboy doesn't have the exact same ideals as Powfu. Rxseboy's not as Christian as Powfu because of the attachment at the hip that people, you know, place. Like, here's Powfu and here's me chilling. You know what I'm saying? Rxseboy's always there, whatever. That didn't benefit either of us. Sure, it made the songs do better, but, like, we are both, just like everybody else, we are all complex people with different beliefs and a whole list of unique things about each other. And when you take two people and you always associate them with each other, it's not the greatest thing. And I could tell you right now, like, it was hard for me to get out of it because I mean, I still don't think I ever did get out of it, which now I don't think of it as such a terrible thing. But I know, yeah, when things weren't good and everything, where's the songs with Rxseboy? Rxseboy should go on your tour. And again, people don't know all this stuff. People didn't know this stuff. And if they did, they didn't care because their emotions outweighed the reality of what they were seeing. And they thought they could magically will stuff back without either of us having personal growth to be able to talk about this stuff. You know, they just wanted to force us back into a group or a duo, and everything was going to be good because as long as our names were on the songs together, people were content. But that wasn't acceptable for either of us. You know, after that, I went live and said stuff about him that, again, I don't regret saying, but there were ways I could have said it that weren't as inflammatory. I could have been calm, but I was so emotionally distraught over everything that had happened. And again, the reason he dropped the song is he was also emotional about everything that happened, right? So you have two people that just are emotional, and we say we do things, and then, you know, if it's in the public, and I will say I had I was used to handling things publicly. I was in the COD scene. People say something about you on Twitter. You got to defend yourself with your life, or you got people calling you slurs, telling you to drink bleach off yourself, like a lot of stuff. So for me, I would say it was definitely a learned behavior to stick up for myself and try to, like, level the playing field, not necessarily with insults, but with, like, understanding. And again, there were more positive ways to, you know, show or get people to understand certain things. If that same situation happened again today, I feel like there would be a respectful conversation pretty much immediately if there was inflammatory comments made by both of us. After that, there was nothing left to be said publicly other than having a conversation. And after the full song came out, we did. And through more growth from myself, I apologized for a lot of stuff. And I felt good about everything. And life feels normal. It really does. We're the closest we've been in years. I know a lot of people were probably waiting for that part of the video. Sorry it took an hour to get to it, but, you know, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot of negativity still surrounding, I don't know for him, but for me specifically for sure about the situation. And I think, you know, again, I think this is a great way of truly putting all the negative stuff to rest and allowing for not just a private, but a public celebration of positivity. And that probably sounds cringe, but I genuinely hope that, you know, regardless of if Powfu and I collaborate ever again, that you guys can appreciate and not ask for more constantly from either of us. And again, this isn't dude, if some, oh, it's for views, he's doing this for views. Bro, I literally, like, I have never felt better about my life. I feel so positive. I feel healthy. I feel fantastic. And I really just want this video to show us, like, we've both grown up a lot. And, you know, you might not agree with everything people say, but communicate that stuff before it's too late. And also, like, you might have falling outs with people, but when you guys both grow and become, you know, stronger people, there's no reason why you guys can't work on things and become friends again. Obviously, the friendship will never be the same, but I feel like this version of our friendship is the most authentic version of our friendship. And now I gotta hit trick shot while my cat is clawing my leg because I have a kitten and bro is diabolical. And there we go. I don't know where he was. I literally knew I was gonna hit the window shot if I didn't reload. Like, I just felt it. But anyways, if you got any hatred or anything out of this video, I'm gonna just say this, like, you are the problem. Because there's nothing in this video meant to be damaging or anything. Like, anyways, I love y'all. Thanks for watching. Please be respectful in the comments. Have a good one.